All right, we're back. We are COMP397 web game programming at Centennial in the fall 2017 semester, and we are week 5, part 2 of our broadcast, and we're talking about user interfaces after we did collisions. So how we got collisions working, right? We know they work, and when we check now, we want to get some feedback. And part of it's going to be designing a user interface, a very simple one, inside of our play screen that tells the user how many points they got or how many lives they lost. Very simple. All right. Well, what do we do? There's a couple of approaches here. And one of the approaches could be in our play screen, we're going to put a couple of labels, right? One of them is going to be our score label, and the other one is going to be our lives label. And then what we can do, our live label and score label, is we can set up scoring. And this should be done after everything else. So after the cloud number and everything else, we'll set up a couple of more objects here. So privates, we'll say our lives label, which is going to be of type objects.label. And we'll say private score label is going to be of type objects.label. A couple of labels, right? And we also need to keep track of everything. So we'll say privates will have a lives and private score. Now there's a difference between the label and the actual data object. The data container will be lives. The data container for score will be score. But the lives label and the score label will display those two things. That's what's going to happen. Okay, so two objects now. Now again, in future iterations of this code, we may elect to make this its own class called scoreboard. We create a new scoreboard class. The scoreboard has both lives and score. And we create the lives label and the score label actually reflectant of the scoreboard. And we have more than one level, right? We don't want to duplicate this over and over again. It's too much. But for now, minimum viable product. We're going to move on. So in the start method, we're going to go to this dot underscore lives is equal to 5. This dot underscore score is equal to 0. So we have no score. And we're going to set up our objects. This dot underscore lives label is equal to, actually we'll do it after. Let me just do that again. Sorry. So I've got my score and my lives. I might as well set it up here. Lives label. We're doing in reverse order here. This dot underscore lives label is equal to a new objects.label. And we're going to pass in a bunch of stuff that label needs, right? Label needs the string, right, which is lives, right, plus the font size, right, which we're going to make about 30 pixels. For now, we'll see if that's enough. And then the family, we'll use Consolus again. And the color, which we'll use yellow. So FF00, that'll be the color. The X and Y positions, right? Which right now I want to put it on the top left. So let's say 10 and 10. I don't know if that's right. And if it's centered. Now in this case, I don't want my labels to be centered, so that's false. That's my lives label. But I haven't actually added it to the scene yet. I'm just making it. Now I'll just copy paste this one and I'll do my score label. So this is score label now. Score. And my score label is going to be another label, but it's going to say score. And It's going to be 30 pixels, console us. And instead of 1010, it's going to be something like 350 in 10. 350, something like that. For now. All right, so we've got our lives label and our score label. And it's at lives. And you know what? I'm going to add the score, which is like this, plus this dot underscore lives, plus this dot underscore score. So a couple of those things here. Live label and scores label. All I'm doing is I'm putting it at 1010 and 35010. All right, so we got those. And now what I want to do is I want to go down into my main, and after everything, after I add stuff, my clouds, I want to put them higher than the clouds, so they're going to be here. So I'm going to say, well, this dot add child, this dot underscore lives label, and this dot add child, this dot underscore score label. Like I said, in the future, we may elect to have a class that does all this for us. Now, let's see what happens. All right, I'm going to save it, and we should see our lives and our score. So if I start, it's pretty small. That's 30 pixels. And what did I do wrong? Yeah, it should be 30 pixels, like this. Because CreateJS doesn't like it when you put spaces. Right? Okay, this is pretty good, but I notice that they flow on top of everything. So this is 1010 and 10350. Gee, how do I know that? Did it a million times. Okay, but here's the thing that you have to know, right? That this is pretty ugly text. And I want to use something called a web font. I want to use the web font. Luckily for you guys, I've included a font inside of our project folders. So let's take a look at the project folders. And you can see that inside of my assets, I have something called fonts, and it's doc 51 TTF. Cool. I want to use this font, but I can't use a true type font up online. I want to take this font and convert it into a web font. And there used to be a service, hopefully it's still around, that does that for us. It's called Air Squirrels. Air Squirrels. Or no, is it called Font Squirrel? Font Squirrels. I'll be okay. Font Squirrel, not Air Squirrel. Font Squirrels. So if I go to Font Squirrel, yay, here's my fonts, right? You can see that there's tons of fonts I can use. I want to make a generator. Here's my generator. I can upload fonts. I want to use, it says there's two options. One is straight conversion with minimal processing, and one is optimal. I'm going to click on yes, it's legally eligible for web embedding. I'm going to click on upload fonts. This is in web or Font Squirrel, right? I'm going to take my font. So I'm going to go to my desktop where I have my my project template, which is this COMP397. And inside my assets, I have fonts. I'm going to choose Doc 51 and press open. It's going to upload it. And once I'm done, it says it registered glyphs. I'm showing you how to do this so that you can do it for your own font. Okay. I'm going to download my kit, it says. Download the kit. Thank God this still works. Sometimes these little web tools, they disappear, right? So we have to kind of accept it when we get it. Okay, now that I've got it, I'm going to put it back inside my folder. So I'm going to go to desktop, and I'm going to go to inside my COMP397, inside my assets. I'm just going to drop it in here like a zip file. Okay, so save. It's only 259K, very small. And I'm going to unzip it. And inside my files, you can see that I got all this. But it also comes with a CSS style sheet, right? And if I open this up with any editor, right? Let's just use text Wrangler. You can use edit. You can see that this is what I need to put in. I need to use @fontface, right? And I'm going to put this inside my CSS, this exact stuff right here. Okay, so I'm going to take this out right here. I'm going to copy it. Now, when you use @fontface, you basically got to say that you declare your font as doc51, right? So be careful. Whatever font family you put in here is the one that's going to appear that you have to use, the exact font name. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in a second. I'm going to go back to my Visual Studio Code. I'm going to go into my CSS file, which is in my content folder, right? And before my canvas check, I build up my little font. I'm going to drop it in there. But instead of calling it doc_51 regular, I'm just going to call it doc51. That's the new font family. Okay. Now, this stuff. How does it work? Well, if I go back to my folders here, that's the CSS style sheet, right? It also has given us some specimen files. Here's some specimen files. So here's our specimen style sheet, as well as an HTML demo. Let's take a look at this demo file. So if I double click on this HTML demo, you can see that this is my font that I want to use. Okay, so it's actually activated it and it's using it. So this is the font I want to use. Okay. And if I open this up with something like another editor, let's say VS Code again, but another editor, right? You can see that what it's doing is it's linking the style sheet.css for the specimen and the style sheet.css here. Notice that it's using this type, font family is equal to doc51 to specify that the entire body is that. That's what it's doing, right? And it's doing it in inline with some inline code. I'm not going to do that. Okay, so that's what this file does. This one right here. Okay. Now, what is the style sheet.css? Now, notice that this one does this CSS sheet. That's all I'm using, right? So if I'm right, then all I need to do is incorporate this in. Now, I also need this WAF, doc51 WAF, as well as doc51 web font WAF 2. And it's going to be in the same folder in this particular case as HTML and the CSS. That makes no sense. Because if I look at my CSS for a second, my structure, right? Here's my CSS. You can see that it's looking for this URL. This URL is in the same folder. I got to go up one, right? Into my assets folder, into my fonts folder. That's where I want to put them. So I want to go up one, right? Into my assets folder, into my fonts folder, and I want to look for those fonts in there. Or I'll put this code up online in a second. Okay? So this is what it looks like. Now, after I've got this, right, I need to put this stuff in there, which I haven't done yet. So going back to my operating system, or you can do it inside VS Code, I want to take these two files and I want to move them into my font folder like this. So they're inside my font folder. Now I don't need any of this other stuff. I can get rid of it. That was just my demo stuff. So I can get rid of all this stuff. So that's what I'm left with. WAF 2, WAF and WAF 2, right? With some instructions on how to use. Because I have this, I have my CSS here. And doc51 is the one that what I want to use, right? So it's actually a web font that I'm using. Yes. The who? Oh, I totally messed up. Okay, cool. Now that I've got that fixed, thank you. You're paying attention. I'm just tired. But let's go to, I have to blame something. If I go to my scene now, my play.ts, instead of me using Consolus, I can use doc51, right? Which is way more interesting than Consolus. And to prove this to you, hopefully it's going to work. If I go back to here and start, you can see that my font is updated. Now, wouldn't it be nice if I used it for everything? And the answer is it would be nice. So I'm going to go back into my mail pilot stuff, into my start scene, and also here where I have 80 pixels, I'm going to change this from Consolus to doc51. Okay, going back, I can see that my mail pilot is now this color, right? This is nice. So it's a little bit different than I had before. I'm not quite finished with this state right now, but I want to get the collision user interface working today. So we may not be able to clean this up any better. But this is pretty good. If we got this, we go in here, you can see my font is pretty good. Okay? So that's web fonts. All right, back into my play scene. I've got this update. So now I can check for collisions. I've done my collision check. And down in my collision check area, where I actually confirm there's a collision, I got to check to see what I'm colliding with. So this is the name that I'm colliding with. But in here, what I want to do is do something like this, right? So if, here we go. If I'm colliding with, if other dot name, right, is equal to island, then what happens? Well, this dot score, that underscore score, right, is equal to or plus equals to 100. And of course, I want to update my score label. So this dot underscore score label dot text is equal to score, right, plus this dot underscore score. So that what I'm saying here is, hey, if it's an island, add 100 points to score, and then go to the text of my score label, print score again, so replace whatever's in there with score plus the score that I'm getting, the new score. Okay? That's only if it's colliding with an island. However, if the other dot name is equal to cloud, then it's not this dot score, but this dot underscore lives is minus equals to 1, because I lost a life, right? And this dot underscore lives label dot text is equal to lives plus this dot underscore lives. And that takes care of me registering hits. I've lost a life, I've gained score, and it's going to show it on my user interface, right? So I'm calculating who's going to get score and who's not, basically. Or when I'm going to get score and when I'm not. Are you with me? All right, let's check this out and see if it works by going back to this. So start, and I get 100 points. There we go. Beautiful. That's good. Another 100 points. I lost a life. I get 100 points. I lost a life, lost a life, lost a life, lost a life. Oh, man. I got like -4 lives. Hey, this is the great condition to take us to our end scene, right? We already have our end scene. It says game over. We just got to check it out, and we have to get there from here, right? This is the condition. If our score after colliding goes down to less than or equal to 0, then move us to the next scene. Okay? Let's go back though. So how do I do that? How do I get to the next scene? Well, here's my island in cloud. If I hit enough clouds, I'm going to check to see what it is, right? If it's true. So I'm going to say inside here, when I'm hitting my cloud, if it's true that I don't even have to update lives, right? Why would I update my scoreboard if I'm less than or equal to 0, right? So I'll do it here. So if this._lives is less than or equal to 0. Why less than or equal to 0? Because what if I hit multiple clouds at the same time? If I make equals 0, it might be less than 0 before I have a chance to check. So it's less than or equal to 0 because I might hit 4 clouds at once, or, well, 3 clouds at once maximum, right? So if that's true, if this is lives equal to 0, now I want to switch. How did I switch again? Who remembers how to do it? Current state, right? So current state, remember, because on update, I'm going to return this current state. So I'm going to say that this._current state is equal to config.end. I'm going to go to my end scene now, right? So if my lives are less than or equal to 0, hey, switch scenes. Go to my end scene. What was that? Or? Child? Yeah, right. I should do that too, right? Because if I don't remove my children, right? Because just like I did from, you're right. Because when I went back into my start scene, here's my start scene. And when I moved from here, I removed all children. This is what we did. So I did do the same thing here. Excellent. I'm good that you paid attention, because if you didn't, we would have problems. It would just hang out. They would just hang out on my scene, right? By the way, there's some other things we need to do later on, but other cleanup. But if you notice right here, we're moving to this. But before we move, we're going to kill the children, all the children. But do we do it first or before or after? Well, if you notice what we did earlier, we removed all children after we changed scene, which is totally fine, because if we did it before, it might affect the ability for us to do anything. So this doesn't remove all children. So we're cleaning up. Hey, in future iterations of this code, I want to have a destroy method that does my destruction, which is like almost like a deconstructor. That's what I want to have. I don't need that right now. Minimum viable product. I'm not doing perfect code. Okay, cool. Let's see if this works, man. This is pretty cool if we can get to it. So I start, I die, and game over. Back. I die, right? And game over. This is good. Now, instead of back, it shouldn't say back. It should say restart. So we need a restart button, not a back button, right? Let's fix this scene. We almost have a minimum viable product here. I just need sounds, which I'm going to try and add in before the day's up, right? All right, how do I do that? First of all, one thing at a time. What I need to do here is I need to make a new button. So if I look at the desktop, and if I look at my COMP397 mail pilot, here it is, right? In my assets, in my images, I have some buttons. I have the back button, the next button, the start button. I want to make a restart button. So I'm going to go to the start button, double click. It's going to bring me into my favorite program, Fireworks. You can use GIMP or something else, Krita, other programs that are out there, right? Even Microsoft Paint now has a very good, the new one, paint.net. So here's my start. I just want to change this to restart. So restart, right? And recenter this button. There it is. Save it as, file, save as, right? And I'll put it right in the same thing, but instead of the start button, it's going to be called the restart button. Save. So I've got a new button, the restart button. Now, because you guys don't have it, and I'm doing it really quickly, I'm going to drag and drop this one into Slack. So here's the restart button. I'll just put it in there for you. There it is. Restart button. You have it in Slack now. Okay, restart. All right. So let's go back in there and fix that now. Now that I have that, if I go back to VS Code, right? I need to go back to the front, back to the future. Here where it says back button, I don't need back button anymore. I need restart button because I'm not going to use a back button. So I'll say restart. And this, I'll call this restart. Right? And you know what? I really don't need my next button right now. I'm going to get rid of that too. I'm not going to load stuff I don't need. I got rid of my next button. Inside my code, in my end scene, this can't be called back button anymore. It's going to be called restart button. So I'm going to just rename it. So I'm going to say rename symbol to restart button. And my restart button, it's going to say restart, right? So the restart button is what it's going to be. And game over is not going to be 40 pixels. We'll make it 80 pixels. And we'll make it 1. Right? For now, it'll be black because I don't have anything else in there. Now, the distance might be wrong because I've got this at 320 by 240, and this is 340. Maybe we move the button down a little bit. But maybe it's okay for now. All right, let's try it out. Some changes, right? Let's go back to this thing and start. Die, die, die. Die, game over, right? Restart. Die, die, die. Die, die, game over. Restart. So now you have your start scene, your play scene, and your end scene, and they're all working. Okay? So we have this part right here. We already have a game. Now we need some sounds. So one thing we can do is also load up sounds the same way we preload everything else. So if I go back to VS Code and I go back to my game.ts file, which is right here, notice that I'm loading in graphics, but I've also pre-installed this idea for me loading in sound. See right here, I installed the sound plugin ahead of time. I already did that. Let's do the same thing, but I want to load in my 3 sounds. So I want to do the first sound, second sound, and the third sound. First sound is going to be called the engine sound. Second one is going to be the thunder sound. And the last sound is going to be called the yay sound. Right? And it's not going to look at assets images. It's going to look at assets audio. Assets audio, and it's these sounds.og. Now, let's see if they play. So we're going to go to engine. So audio engine.og assets audio thunder.og and assets audio and yay.og. Make sense? So I preloaded the sounds. Now, just doing this alone, for me to test it, if I go back here and if it's here, I'm good. I wouldn't have got here unless if it failed, right? So I know that it preloaded all my sounds too. That's cool, man. So I've got my sounds preloaded. Now I must play them. Okay. I'm only going to play my sounds, and this is where we get funky. Remember I talked about switching scenes, and somehow your sounds just keep going? Because that's how it works. You got to turn them off, right? So how does this work? Well, if I go back to my scene, and if I go to my play scenes, then what I want to do is when the play scene starts, here in the start method, right? I want to start the sound of my plane flying. It's going to be the engine sound. And what I can do is I can use create.js sound to do that. But remember that it's in my assets. Somehow I need to access my assets, right? Now, if you don't know how sounds work, right? If we look at the create.js sound.js, right? Docs is what we want, right? Docs, because we're using sound.js for the first time. This is the last thing we'll do today, okay? It shows us how this works. Here's my on my file loaded. Well, I don't have to do all this because my preloading takes care of this. I can register a sound. That's fine. And then I can play the sound. create.js.sound.play, and whatever the sound is called. That's all I need to do, right? Based on when I loaded it. So if I called it sound, as long as it's inside as long as it's been preloaded, it'll be registered in my code, and I can just use it. So create.js.sound.play, and the name of the sound that I want to play is the engine sound. But I want it to loop, right? And if you notice, interrupt is 0, delay is 0, offset is 0, loop is -1, volume, right, is 1, pan is 0, and that should do what it has to do. Right, so this will loop forever. This -1 loops the sound. All right, let's see if it works. If I go back to this and press start. It's pretty loud. How do I make my volume less than 1? Well, it's right here, right? Remember this volume is 1? Let's say 0.25. Really low, man. Try this again. Better? All right, so that's pretty cool. So 0.25. Now what I want to do is I want to do the same thing. I want to do the same thing, but I want to go here in my collision check method. Here's my collision check method. And when I hit an island, right, I want to play a sound. So I'm going to say create.js.sound.play. I want to play the sound that's going to be the thunder sound. And my interrupt is 0, my delay is 0, my offset is 0, my loop is 0, my volume is 0.5, right? But I won't do that right now. And 0. So this basically is all the settings for my sound, right? And I'll do the same thing exactly for my, oh, this is the wrong one. This is, I should say yay. The next one is for my thunder sound, which should go here for my, when I lose a life. So if I lose a life and I'm going to live, I'm not going to go to the next scene, then I'm going to make a sound over here, and I'm going to make the thunder sound. Okay, cool. So my thunder sound, my other sounds, I've got my sounds working. I start. Here.
Yay. Yay.
Right? Pretty cool.
Yay.
Why? Because we didn't turn it off. So before we move to the next level, we got to turn that sound off. We preloaded the sound. The sound is always going to be there for our entire game. We could just turn it on, turn it off, right? Because we're looping the sound and we've made it loop, we got to turn that sound off. So before we remove all children, after we get hit by the cloud, and we know we're going to move, we're going to shift to the next scene, we're going to say that create.js.sound.stop, right? and we're going to target the sound that we want. Oh man, wait a minute. I can't target a sound like this. Oh, there's nothing to do, right? We need to create something called an audio instance. And instead of doing it this way, right, it's not for anything else, only for our engine sound, right? Because the only thing we care about to stop is this, right? We need to create an audio instance. So going up to the top, we're going to make a private. We're going to call this the engine sound underscore engine sound, and which is of type create.js.audio instance, sound instance. What it is, here it is. Flash. That's what it says. Flash. Web sound. This is new. They've changed everything. How about sound? Abstract sound instance. There we go. That's what I wanted. Abstract sound instance. Okay. That's what it is. All right. So abstract sound instance means that, and I didn't do these ones too. These should be numbers. I forgot. My bad. All right. So abstract sound instance. That means that in my engine sound, all I have to do is do this. Look. I got to say, well, this dot under sound engine sound is equal to this. So what I'm doing is I'm preserving the sound instance. When this plays, this returns of type of create.js.sound instance. That's what it returns. I don't care about the other ones. The other ones I don't care to control because they play and they stop. They're instant. They're not looping forever, right? But this one has to stop. And the way I can do that is because it's an engine sound, I can go down in here where I want to stop the instance right here. Instead of this sound that stopped, I can say that this underscore engine sound dot, and you can see these are all the ones I can do. I can get loop, set volume, there's off and on, and I can stop it. So that specific one I'm stopping. I can't do it if it's just I'm playing it as a static object. I can play using static object calls. But when I want to stop a specific sound, right? Then I got to do this. Okay. Let's see if that works. So save. Start.
Yay.
That's okay because it stopped afterwards, right? It just did its sound, and then we're here. If you really want to be specific, as soon as we leave the other scene, it should stop the sound too. If you really want to be crazy, if you want to be like make that scene a container so it doesn't sound any plays any sound in the next scene. If without a parameter, then it stops every sound, right? So if I did that, let's just use that instead. I like your thinking. Let's just do this, right? So we said, what if we wanted to use this dot, so create.js dot sound dot stop. That should stop every sound. Let's see if that works. So start.
Yay.
Same. I want to show the other ways because sometimes very specific how to control sounds, right? And that's why I showed you the other way. Creating a sound, an abstract sound instance allows you to change the volume and all that stuff. Otherwise, you have limitations what you can do. All right, so I'm going to use the other one so that gives us more control. But just so you know how to do it, so it's documented, so you know how to do it if you want to look for it. Hey, we use that sound engine sound. We can do the same thing here if you want to do something. Example, music. Music would be a great example of that. You play background music, you want it to loop, and you want it to have a certain volume, right? Or you want to create a volume control for your game, right? You want to specify which sound you're going to change the volume for, right? So then use sound instance. Okay. That's really all I wanted to talk about today. I think I've covered everything. The other thing I would enhance, this is my first playable. My first playable is done, right? The only thing that I'd want to change is this part, my play scene. I'd want to instantiate my ocean so it scrolls in the background, and change my male pilot to yellow. So if I was going to really be a stickler, I'll go to my start scene. And I know that my play scene already has examples of this. So I'm going to grab my ocean and go to my start scene and put it in. Hear me why I'm going to do this. It just looks better, right? Otherwise, it's too bland. It's white, right? And then when I instantiate my ocean, I want to, in my start, I want to take this and put it in my start. So in my start method, and also in my update. And now when I start, yeah, and in main, I got to add it. Okay, ocean, and I want to make my background instead of black, I want to make it yellow because that's the colors, right? So now it's this. Looks better, right? And I want to do the same thing for my game over scene, exactly the same. So they're kind of very similar, aren't they? So go back up here. Since I already have examples of it in my start, grab my ocean, go to my end scene, go over here, put it in. You just copy paste really at this point, right? So my starts, go to my end scene, go to my starts, put it in there, change it to yellow. And I know I'm going to need that. Right? So it looks the same as everything else. In my updates, put it in there. And then, of course, add it to the scene before everything else. Now, start.
Yay.
Right?
Yay.
So you see now I have my first playable. I have my first screen, my play scene, and my end screen. And they all look the style of my game. It's not perfect. Lots of work to do still. I don't have particle effects. I don't have screen shake. I don't have multiple ways of controlling my thing like with a game controller, right? Which, like I said, I put the game controller example up on Slack, right? I don't have lots of things, animations. I can keep going. I don't have a second level. I don't have a tutorial level. I don't have a boss monster. I don't have any of that stuff, right? So I got lots of work to do here with you guys over the semester to finish this off. And then what I'd like to do, if I can, for the second half of semester, if things don't get interrupted, right, is I'd like to make a platform with you guys, right, with physics and all that kind of stuff. So I'll make 2 games. Male Pilot, which is the top-down shooter game that you guys can use, that the people who are doing top-down shooters can use as a template. I don't recommend, using everything here because you want to make it so that the collisions might occur between your enemies, right? My enemies are clouds, so they cross over each other. Those things have to change for you guys, right? And you may not want to make a scrolling background like this. Don't use my background. Make your own. All your assets should be your own for your game. Please don't use my assets. They're just demo assets, right? And the other thing is putting this up on GitHub. So one thing I was able to do with the other class that I couldn't do with you is talk about GitHub pages. For the last 3 minutes of today, I'll talk about GitHub pages. How do they work? Well, all you need, if you look at GitHub pages, host your files, okay? Search for it. A very easy tutorial. What do? I'm not going to do the video. Create repository, right? It's got to have the name of your username, right? So the form has to be username, or in your case, organization name maybe, .github.io, right? Username.github.io. And then once you create that, you upload your files there. That's it. And then when someone goes to your name, to username.github.io, your game is playing, baby. That's it. Look, part 2. How do you use GitHub? A terminal? Well, then you upload to GitHub. You clone it or whatever. You do the same thing we normally do with GitHub. And then afterwards, you push it, and it's done. Regular like we normally do. So really, that's the thing. And if you want to see, I put a Unity version of this game up on my GitHub today. So try it out, www.siliopoulos, my last name.com, right? And if you go there, you'll see the Unity version, which is exactly what we've done here, but just with Unity, right? And a different button. Sorry. Okay, but that's the Unity version. And if you play, you can play now. Go there, check it out. If I play now, right?
Yay.
It's the same code.
Yay. Yay. Yay.
Exactly the same. Now, there's some differences I want you to notice between the Unity version and our version. Do you see a difference? There is slight differences, and here's the difference. Look at our mail pilot. Look at this mail pilot. I'm going to pull this closer so you can see it. So this is this one, and this is this one. It's like this one's bolded, right? It's a web font, right? Which is not something I like a lot. I prefer bitmap fonts. They're a little better than this, right? Which is what Unity does. It converts your font into a bitmap, right? And the same thing goes with our, when we go back to game. If I go back to game, even these fonts up here, right?
Yay.
It's still dying. That was good. It's a double hit, right? Even these fonts up here, which you'll see in a second, right? The main font, the fonts up here, right, are also bolded, right? I did it in both ways, but I just used my GitHub account. And if you want to see what it looks like, right? If you want to see what that looks like, if I go to github.com, right? I also, if you want to make it a custom domain, you can point it, but you need a CNAME file. All right, so let me show you what that looks like. So if I go to me, right? And then my name, .github.io, right? I have a little repository. This is the name. So the username is there. And then, or whatever your organization is, with your organization name .github.io. And then you notice that I have, here's my index.html. This is the build from Unity. But here's my CNAME. And my CNAME only has my custom domain right here. So if you called your game, Crazy X or whatever, then it would be www.crazyx.com or whatever you bought, right? And like I mentioned earlier to the guys who are in my COMP397 class, I'll do this with GoDaddy. Then you can always look for your name up on GoDaddy, right? So I kind of do this. I say GoDaddy.com. And what's the name of your game? No, the game. What is it called? Phoenix. What is it? Saga? I know what it is. Phoenix Saga. If I go Phoenix Saga, right? Yay, look, .co is available. How about phoenixsaga.ca for $4.99, right? Not this one. Don't buy this one, right? Phoenix Saga. Yeah, because this is a premium name. It's a cool. You know what? You guys picked a good name. All right. So good they want to charge you $2,600 for it, Canadian. All right. Don't, right? Not for school, right? But they also have other ones, .net, .info, .co, you know, other ones, right? How about you guys in the corner? What's your name? What's your game name? What is it? Tarot Tanks. Oh yeah, Tarot Tank, like this. Tarot Tanks with 2 T's or 1 T? Tarot Tanks. Tarot Tanks is available, my friends, right? Tarottanks.com, right, is $14.99. .ca, hold on, is $4.99, right? You can't go wrong. And you can point your custom domain to your github.io, and so that you can say, hey, we're Tarot Tanks, or we're Tarot Tanks. Go up online, guys, and play the game, right? And this is great for self-marketing, right? You're going to market yourself. You're going to say, here's my portfolio. You know, I've got my game. It's up online. You know, this is part of the stuff that you're going to do for this course, right? You may not have to buy. I'm not asking you to spend money if you don't want to, but you need to host it somewhere. Not now, but for your first playable. Take a look at the requirements. It's there, right? So what about you guys in the corner? What's your name? What is it? Come on. The game. What? Misdirection. Resurrection. Okay. Resurrection. What is it? Of. Oh yeah, it's there for sure. Resurrection of Zur. Okay, Resurrection of Zur. Right, it's pretty good. It's pretty long, but you can. Wow, it's pretty expensive too. .com is $14.99. .ca is $4.99. You know, so it's pretty good. And I'm sure .xyz is $1.49. Look, $1.49, right? So you can totally get that stuff, and it's not that expensive. I'm sure if you check your name out on GoDaddy, you can find it. And then there's instructions. There's instructions on how to point your domain. You have to go into GoDaddy, and you have to do a little bit of domain management. We can go over it together and point your domain to github.io, the website, and you're good to go. Now, it lasts for a year, like I said, at this price, let's say $1 or $1.49. Then second year it goes $20.99, but you don't need to do that, right? It's only for this course, for $1.49 for the whole year, right? It's the price of a cup of coffee, right? For you guys to do that, and a credit card. You have to put a credit card up there too. All right, I'm gonna leave you with that, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Next week when we get back, we've got my first playable. We're gonna get into some other stuff, some optimizations next week, all right, that I wanna do with you guys. After next week, so next week is week 6, all the funky stuff that can happen happens after us. So next week, for sure, we're gonna be here. So I'll see you next week, okay? Enjoy your Thanksgiving.